Thank you so much for coming out tonight on this Tuesday. Happy to be here at the Ladies Library, and I wanted to thank Devin, who couldn't be here tonight, for inviting me to come and speak. So my name is Amy Marino. I am the owner of the Sanctuary, Healing Therapies and Gifts. I'm in my 15th year with the Sanctuary. It says a lot for Cape Cod business. So this is actually my third location. I started off in Mashpee in 2011, and then eventually moved to Barnstable Village, and then eventually moved to where I am now in Brewster, which is at the beautiful Lemon Tree Village Shops, right down here on Route 6A. So there it is. We have a beautiful gift boutique with all sorts of crystals, incense, of course, cards, and anything else for your spiritual practice. We have private services, so psychic readings, all types, including tarot. We can delve into future, we can delve into past lives, we can go into Akashic records, we can go into mediumship, we can go into divine life purpose, connecting you with your guides. There's lots to talk about. Energy work. So if you need a chakra balancing, if you need some sort of a clearing, if you don't know what you need, that's okay too. But anxiety and overall reduction in stress and being able to better move through your daily life and world. Mentoring for those that are seeking a little bit of guidance, whether that's one-on-one, or through a class. And we also do classes, meditations, special events, crystal samples, and we have our divinity spa. So spa features 6 different types of energy equipment that you can come and try out and do private session on. We have salt cabin, a Derek crystal light bag, sacred geometry mat, infrared sauna, biocharger, and biomat, amethyst biomat. So you can come on, hop on one, or try a little bit of everything. So there's lots to do. And mostly it's designed for you to come and have an experience when you step into the sanctuary. We are here today to talk a little bit more specifically about tarot. And this is me. So a little bit more about what I do. I actually started off back in the day reading tarot cards and doing Reiki. And that was what I did. Fast forward 20 years later, I'm doing all of that other stuff that we mentioned. But tarot was really a springboard, tarot and Reiki. And they were an excellent tools to develop intuition, psychic gifts and abilities to be opened and awakened, and for really like self-discovery. And as I mentioned, developing your gifts. So psychic means you're receiving information intuitively in your mind. Mediumship is when you can actually talk to spirit. Now that might be angels, that might be fairies, that might be spirit guides or ascended masters. That might be people who have crossed over. That is all in the realms of mediumship. If you're communicating with spirit, that's mediumship. Empath, so I'm a big empath. Anyone here an empath? Yeah, it's like being an energetic sponge. It's lots of fun. So you could find yourself absorbing all kinds of fun and interesting things from other people and places, but that also includes energetic information. So if you can learn how to interpret it and protect yourself and keep yourself clear, that is a pretty interesting gift as well. And then the clairs, clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant. What does that mean? The clairaudient is your clear hearing. That was the first thing for me. When I was much younger, it kicked in. I had an inner hearing in my ear. Kind of like at the movie theater, the voice that comes in and does the movie announcements and the voiceover. That was happening in my head. Clairvoyance, that's your clear seeing. That's when you can see images. That was the last one to kick on for me. I worked at it really, really hard. And finally, eventually got that kicking. The clairsentience and the claircognizance often go hand in hand. And if you're an empath, you are probably very clairsentient. That's your clear feeling. So you might sometimes feel energy or feel spirit, or it's your gut feelings about things. And the claircognizance, that's your clear knowing. So that's when you just know. You don't know how you know that you know, and often it comes in as a download, it comes in as a thought, You might think it's yours, but I'm often like, I don't think that came from me. And it almost feels like a thought bubble plunking in sometimes. Okay, let's get to the meat of what you came here for today, tarot. All right, so first of all, I want to talk about what is the difference between oracle cards and tarot cards. They are very, very different. And if you're not familiar, I'm going to give you a quick little rundown. All right, your tarot cards. Your tarot cards, here's a deck of Rider-Waite tarot. This is a classic tarot. 78 cards. So pretty much every deck of tarot is always going to have 78 cards. There are 2 bonus cards that came later that some decks have, but for the most part, 78. If it doesn't have 78, it's not a true tarot. If it has like less, a lot less. With your oracle cards, there could be any number of cards. I brought a couple of decks in case you guys are interested in looking later. But there could be 44 cards, so it could be 30 cards, there could be 50 or any number, whatever the author deems. In your 78 tarot cards, they are broken down very specifically. There are 22 major arcanas. Your major arcanas carry the most weight energetically. They are hefty. These are your big fate destiny cards. So they're also known as trump cards. They're going to trump any of the other minor arcanas in your spread. Okay. There is also going to be 40 minor arcana cards. The minor arcanas talk a little bit more about the daily stuff that we go through in life. The day-to-day things we have more control over, whereas the trump cards are your big fate destiny stuff. All right. In the tarot, and we also have 16 court cards. Anyone ever heard of the Myers-Briggs personality test for psychology? Okay, very, very similar to the 16 archetypes that we have in tarot. There's 4 cards, 4 suits, making 16, and they each represent a different phase, a different type in our life, a different personality. They're very tied into the astrological signs, which help to determine the personality traits of those cards. Okay, so all of those cards, your 22 major arcana, your 40 minor arcana, and your 16 court cards comprise of a classic tarot deck. Also, in tarot, for the most part, your card is only going to have the name of the card and the number of the card. It is a complex picture language steeped in layers of ancient symbolism, and it's interpreted by the reader. It's a wonderful tool for developing your own intuition, understanding yourself, and making decisions. It's a reflective mirror, and it reflects our joys and challenges, but with the added insight of the energies, intentions, and possibilities of the people and situations involved. Now, your oracle cards, they can be any number of cards, as I mentioned, and they can be any theme. I just brought a couple here. I've got Native American oracle cards. I've got Whispers of Healing oracle cards. And I've got some Guardian Angel oracle cards. So any theme. The author of that deck of oracle is going to determine the card name, the picture, and its meaning. Usually with oracle cards, there is going to be a word, a phrase, or sometimes an entire message printed right on the front of the card. It's going to also include an author's booklet. So this is going to include an explanation for the meaning of each of those oracle cards. Generally, your oracle cards are always going to have positive, uplifting messages for wisdom, clarity, and guidance. They are easy for beginners to use. There is little to no interpretation needed. You pull a card, you look up the message. Nice and easy. But they can also be used as a springboard for insight and meditation. Sometimes people start with oracle and then work their way up to tarot, but it kind of depends. I tend to believe that if you are drawn and curious about tarot, there's a reason for that. You have dabbled in other lifetimes. It's not your first time with the deck. Okay. So here is a depiction of a couple of tarot cards. There are 6 trump cards pictured there, major arcanas. So these cards, we have the Sun, the Star, Death, the Empress, the Magician, and the High Priestess. You are going to find those major arcana cards in every tarot deck. They are very specific archetypes. Here's an example of some oracle cards, so you can see a little better. So just up here, I've got Oracle of the Unicorns. We have Fantasy Cat Oracle, Self-Love Oracle, Oracle of the Angels, Alice in Wonderland Oracle, Healing Energy Oracle, and Sacred Earth Oracle. I literally have hundreds of oracle decks in my collection. It's kind of like having a wise guru in a box, right? And every deck is its own little wise guru in a box. It's going to have its own personality, its own way of telling you things, its own style and take on things, so they can be fun. All right, how does it all work? Is it magic? Not exactly. The law of attraction, the same way most things work. Using law of attraction, like attracts like. And so you are always going to draw the card that mirrors or matches your energetic vibration. You have an energetic vibration right now, each one of you. It's based on your thoughts, your feelings, your challenges, everything going on with you, what you're thinking about in that moment. So your vibration then also changes with the intention of the question and your thoughts. So this is where we can start to work with the tarot more as a tool. All right, where did tarot come from? The origins of tarot are a bit mystical and unknown. It's an intriguing history if you really start to delve into it. And there is a cultural evolution that has happened with that as well. So in the beginning, it is believed generally that tarot cards first appeared in mid-15th century Italy. And they were originally created as a playing card game, and it was called tarocchi. Now, when I think of a playing card game, the royals used to play it. And it made me think of, you ever remember that game Memory, where we had the matching picture cards? Yeah, I imagine that the royals are sitting around and maybe playing some sort of medieval game of memory, or perhaps like war, right? That my card trumps your card, and we're going to see who wins. So that was originally how it's believed that it started. I've also heard it's a children's game in the streets of France. So early on, the cards were not actually associated with divination, but they were used for entertainment. Okay, so early on, our deck consists of 4 suits. Where else do we see 4 suits in a card deck? A regular deck of playing cards, right? So there are actually some similarities, and you can actually use a regular deck of playing cards for divination, and that is called cartomancy. Actually, funny story. I used to, way back, I was selling party light candles, and I was doing candle parties. And I was at a fair in Plymouth, and somebody that I knew through my ex's coworker was at a head table, and she was reading cards, like regular deck of playing cards. She was doing readings. And she made like 3 times as much as I did selling candles. And I was like, what is this cartomancy thing? How the heck do you read a deck of playing cards? So I went down to the one psychic shop at the time, which was on Cape Cod, which was Lavender Moon in Sandwich. And I walked in and I said, what information do you have on cartomancy? And she said, oh, honey, that's a dying art. You want some tarot cards. Now, I grew up in a very religious upbringing. I wasn't so sure about that. But I decided I would give it a try. And I actually found a deck of cards that had some meanings printed on them. So I started off practicing with that. And that was kind of my foot in the doorway with tarot. Okay, so the energy, as we said, of those major arcanas carry a heavier weight. And the cards were richly illustrated. They often reflected art, beliefs, and culture of their time. And this part is very important. They would feature allegorical images. and symbols that would later be interpreted in many various ways. What is allegorical? That means containing a moral or a hidden meaning in something. So stories, plays, art have been used for centuries to convey concrete ideas as symbols for deeper and layered meanings. We find this in folk tales and fables. And in art, artists would often include religious or political messages symbolized by painted figures, items, or backgrounds to convey their beliefs or agenda, right? They wanted a way to tell their story, to voice their opinion, especially if it went against maybe what the government of the time was preaching, or the laws and those sorts of things. So by the late 18th century, this is where things begin to take a turn for tarot. Tarot begins to gain a mystical reputation because of work of occultists like Antoine Court de Gablin, who believed that tarot cards had ancient Egyptian origins and could be used as a tool for divination and mindful self-reflection. This is where we see tarot begin to transition from a game into a spiritual and philosophical tool. Okay, the Rider-Waite-Smith. This is your classic tarot deck. It's the one that I brought. In the early 20th century, with the publication of the Rider-Waite deck by author Edward Waite, it's illustrated by Pamela Pullman Smith. This popularized tarot as a divination tool. It introduced new, fresh imagery and symbolism that became the foundation of modern tarot practice and emphasized more of the psychological and spiritual aspects of the cards. Okay, today, tarot is used for divination, but it can be also used for personal growth, self-exploration, and insight into our challenges. It's transcended origins as a game to become a powerful tool for many who are seeking wisdom, guidance, and deeper understanding of the world around them. All right, so we have a rich backdrop in all of these 78 cards here that has developed over time and throughout history. So we have already determined that our 78 cards have pretty specific foundational meanings and archetypes. Here's where the twist comes in. Interpretation. Okay, so anybody familiar with ink blots? Again, this is used in psychology, right? They show you the ink blot and they determine how crazy you are. Okay, so they use this to explore a person's personality and their emotional functions. This test uses ambiguous ink blots. It records the interpretations to find out what people are seeing in them, and then it analyzes them to gain psychological insights into their thoughts, feelings, and personality traits. Note, there are many images in the tarot cards that are also left intentionally ambiguous. An image may look like one thing in one reading, and it might look like something else in another, or you might not notice it at all. Or it might be the only thing on the card that you can see because it's flashing at you. All right, more interpretation. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? Or is there just room for wine? So this is going to determine a lot of how you read your tarot cards. So any of you have that friend or that coworker that's the Debbie Downer? They're just doom and gloom, right? They have a dark rain cloud hanging over their head. No matter where they go, there's always some sort of trauma or drama. Those people, do not give them a tarot deck. No. Here's the thing. If you are a fear-based person, you're going to use this as a fear-based tool. Okay? So this is where I think an understanding of really what the tarot is, it's a mirror. Is everything in life always wonderful and hunky-dory and rainbows and unicorns all the time? No, we go through challenges. We go through ups and downs. Stuff happens, as they say. And so the tarot is reflective of that. And so it can help us when there are challenges on the way. Let's take a look. Okay. So we're going to get into a little bit of symbolism. We're going to dissect a couple of the cards here. I am a person that likes to go deep. I don't like surface meanings. I want to see how deep I can actually go with one card, or a couple of cards, or one reading. So here we're going to delve into the Five of Pentacles. So as we see, this depicts two people. They're out in the cold. It looks like they are in need of help and shelter. These two figures here are actually blind and lame. And this is an allusion to an old tale where a lame man and a blind man pulled their resources together and overcome their maladies, as the lame man could see where they were going and the blind man could help to support the lame man in walking. So given that illustration, we can see in this card the light of hope and support and unity during adversity. So might not be so bad as it looks on the surface, right? Point 2. Okay, so there is actually a little bell in this deck around the neck of the lame person. And that is actually a plague bell. It signals to others that he's sick. So while that bell signifies his malady, it also symbolizes someone who is a survivor, someone who's fighting, someone who's on a healing journey. Actively falling snow. This is the only card in the entire deck that depicts actively falling snow. It makes a challenging situation even more challenging, as they are already out in the cold. It's night, they're lame and blind. There is correlation to the Hermit card, another card that does depict snow and sometimes can depict challenges for us. The white snow is contrasted with the dark church, giving us a yin-yang symbolic feeling and showing further the complementary nature of the two working together for the betterment of both. We also see there are some stained glass pentacles. These pentacles illuminate light into the dark snowstorm from the church. The image is a divine symbol that we see referencing the Kabbalistic tree of life. The pentacles create a union of the spiritual and material worlds. Generally, in tarot, pentacles represent money, resources, health, and karma. So your overall meaning, if this shows up in a reading, generally this is going to indicate you are going through some challenges. There could be some injury, health issues, financial loss, or spiritual poverty represented. And you know what? There are times in life when we do feel that everything is going wrong and the world is against us. And we wish we could just catch a break and turn things around. So this card reminds us that also that spiritual wealth is more valuable than material wealth. And it reminds us to look to others for support, accept help, but also help yourself. 10 of Pentacles. Now, I would say that this 10 of Pentacles is sort of the bipolar opposite of that 5. So in this depiction, we see pentacles, we see coins raining from heaven. Oh, right? We see that there is an older gentleman here. The shape, by the way, we see the reference of the Kabbalistic tree of life is the shape of the pentacles, and we just saw that in the 5, right? He has found material security, wealth, abundance. It looks like he sort of built his castle and a legacy. He's found some financial security and peace. And instead of hoarding his possessions, which is actually referenced in the 4 of Pentacles, he shares his abundance with those around him. All right, so those 10 of Pentacles, as we mentioned, are arranged to match the 10 stages of the Jewish Kabbalistic tree of life. So this furthers the spiritual connection that tarot begins to have with mystical traditions. Okay, so here, this arrangement, we see the harmonious connection between material and divinity. It doesn't have to be one or the other. this older man, we see actually in the Nine of Pentacles, we see a woman in later years depicted. Well, the woman in that card celebrates her own work. This man uses his work to celebrate others. He's gained wisdom and he blesses those around him with his abundance. There are three people. It's unclear. We always sort of assume they're family. I sort of look at the generational. I think of this as the grandfather, the children, and then the grandchildren. We see the dogs there as well. Perhaps the family isn't aware that he's there, though, and where the blessings are coming from. Perhaps he has chosen his friends and whatnot to be his family. He's chosen who he brings in to his family. We see two dogs here. This is another allude to the story of Odysseus, who disguised himself as an old man, and he was only recognized by his dog. So lots of little hidden meanings and references in the tarot. It's filled with them. We also see a bridge, and this can illustrate harmony of opposites. That's across the top of the card. We see grapes. These represent growth, maturity, the sweetness of life. Generally, when this card comes in, this is known as the Wall Street card. People don't pull it all the time, but this does indicate some large sources of money, usually, or opportunities, financial security. It's the last card. It's the highest level of that suit in Pentacles. So this is where we reach satisfaction and fulfillment at the end of that journey in Pentacles. All right, reversals. Sort of a lot of controversy around reversals. Do we read reversals? Do we not read reversals? Okay, there's a couple of rules. So reversals are when you draw the card and it comes out upside down. Here's the thing. This is a deck that I brought with me from the sanctuary. I used it earlier today in a reading, and I can guarantee you if we pulled all of these cards out, about half of them are upside down. That just happens over time of shuffling and people pulling and putting them back in. Every once in a while I go through and I make them all go the same direction. So here's the thing. If I know that half of these are in here upside down, and then I pull out a card, which, by the way, I usually do spread out my cards in a beautiful circle. So half of them are going to be upside down, even when you go to pull them, just because of the nature of the pull. So I take that into account. And if they come upside down and I know they're already in there upside down, I don't pay too much attention to it. If I had just straightened them all out and I know they're all beautifully going the same direction, and I pull one that comes upside down, I'm paying attention. That's something to look at. So generally, reversals are going to be either the opposite of the upright meaning, although every card already kind of has a bipolar opposite, as you just saw with the 5 and the 10 of Pentacles. A weakened or delayed version of it, or a reflection of internal struggles. Generally, I think a weakened or delayed version of it is what I normally am most guided to go with in those situations. So we could have an opposite meaning. We could have blockage or delay, internal struggle, weakened or enhanced energy, or misdirection. When to read with reversals: to deepen understanding, get more nuanced insights into a reading, identify blockages, highlight obstacles or challenges in a situation, explore internal aspects. They can shed light on struggles or repressed emotions. When not to read reversals: if they seem confusing or overwhelming, if they seem too cloudy or mudden the interpretation rather than clarify it, if your intuition doesn't resonate with them. If you don't feel comfortable incorporating those, you don't have to. In the beginning, when you're first learning, we don't look at reversals. We're learning basic foundations. And if the deck's not designed for reversals. Some decks are designed for reversals. I have a deck that is kind of split in half, and half the top picture is depicted sort of more light and airy, and then the other end is depicted a little more like shadowy, to kind of give you the feel for that. Okay, so here's an example. Ten of Pentacles, upside down. This could suggest that you're apprehensive about traditional wealth, marriage, family. It might ask you what is important to your life to bring what is actually going to bring you joy, what goals you want to focus on. Whatever it is, this is going to bring you encouragement to pursue it and suggest that it might come true. All right, here's two side-by-side reversals. This is Two of Cups, which is a card of deep love and commitment of soulmates, marriage, engagements. Here we see it reversed. So if you are looking at those cards, do they each make you feel a little bit different? Yeah, they should. So that's kind of what we're looking for when we're trying to figure out the interpretations. Okay, positions and relationship. After we learn all of the 78 cards, we need to start to figure out positions and relationships. So if we have more than one card, and these two cards come up together, this could potentially be a rags to riches story, right? We moved from this scenario and now we're in this scenario. But if they came up in this position, this could indicate a riches to rags story, a twist of fate, a loss of wealth and financial security. Now, there's some other meanings that we could go into, but there's just kind of an example of how the meaning might change based on where it is and the other cards that come in with it. And that leads us to spreads. So the primary purpose of a spread is it reveals hidden information and it specifies certain issues or questions. So by laying out the cards in a particular pattern, you can interpret the meanings of the layout and the relationship to each other. So this is the simplest spread. It's a simple 3-card spread. So you can actually decide what you want those 3 cards to represent. I could decide that I want to pull 3 cards and I want it to be a challenge, advice, and outcome if I follow that advice. It's all about the intention because remember we said cards are responding to the law of attraction, which is tweaked by your intention and thoughts. Okay, so in this one, we have past, present, future. So if I determine that I'm doing a 3-card spread, it's going to be past, present, future. I decide that first, then I pull my 3 cards with that intention in mind. The first card I pull goes into spot 1. The second card I pull is going to go into spot 2. The third card I pull is going to go into spot 3. The card that lands in spot 1, that is going to represent the past. Now, if that fun 5 of Pentacles shows up here, I'm not going to worry too much about that. It's in the past, it's already happened, it shows where I'm coming from. If it shows up here, this would indicate right now, current, present moment, I might be going through some challenges. Health, financial, feeling, in a lack, loss, attitude. If it shows up over here, well, that's the future spot. Oh no, does that mean we're doomed? No. It means that, guess what? Knock, knock, there could be a couple challenges coming around the bend. Buckle up, Buttercup. We want to prepare. And here's the thing, again, if you're a fear-based person, you could go right into a whole lot of fear with that. Oh my gosh, financial loss, what's going to happen? Let's see what my next thing is. So I can tell you a fun little story. Years ago, I worked somewhere and I had with just learning tarot, sort of at the beginning of my tarot journey. And I was pulling cards one day and I was like, oh, what about work? How is work going? The Tower comes out. Now, I don't have a picture of it up here, but the Tower, there's lightning coming from the sky, there's bodies flying from the tower, there's fire, it's not good. And like, oh no, Oh no. That card, though, is an interesting card. It depicts when the rug gets pulled out from under us, when something unexpected happens, knocks the wind out of us, and our foundations are shaken up. Interestingly, generally, tower events, as I call them, only happen when we haven't taken care of it ourselves. So, for example, you hate your job. You go to that job that you hate every day. You complain about that job that you hate every day. You don't go and look for another job. And here's all the 10 reasons why. Jobs are hard to find. I won't be able to make as much. Blah, 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 blah. You stay at your job that you hate. Things escalate and get worse. The negative Nelly moves to the desk next to you. You get a new boss from hell. Your parking spot gets taken away. Things are just, this is the universe telling you, you should really leave that job. And we're like, la, 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 I'm not listening. The knock gets louder. Things get a little worse. This is the universe. Where the voiceover comes in. This is the universe. You should really leave that job. So if we choose to ignore that and not leave that job, guess what? That's when the tower event happens. That's when the universe has to step in and take care of it for us. Next thing you know, you're fired. You're laid off. You go to work the next day, there's chains on the door. Company's closing. You might be, chicken little, the sky is falling, right? That's the energy of the tower card. But it's always a blessing in disguise. It's clearing something out that's no longer serving you. It's clearing out something you've outgrown. It's clearing out something that you should have left on your own, but you couldn't. So the universe comes in and takes care of it for you. That's why it's always better to take care of it ourselves. Always. Okay, so back to my story. The tower card flies out, and I realize that I'm getting fired. Oh no, I've never been fired. 3 days later, when I get called down to the office for some 401k paperwork I hadn't filled out, I knew they were going to fire me. So I took my sweet time. I packed my favorite stapler. I moseyed on down, and guess what? I got fired, but I was prepared. I was emotionally prepared, and I wasn't shocked at all. And I was actually totally okay. And it was fine. So that was actually helpful. Sometimes it can be helpful to know when the speed bumps are coming around the corner. All right, we're going to chat briefly about the 16 archetypes. So these are the characters of the tarot. We saw the major arcanas, which are those trump cards, the big fate, destiny energies. We mentioned a little bit about the minor arcana, which are our daily lives that we go through, and those are the 4 suits. Pentacles, cups, swords, and wands. And those also represent emotions, water energy, pentacles, money, health, resources. Swords are air. They represent the mental mind, thoughts, innovations, ideas. And our wands are fire energy. They represent action and fire. And now we have King, Queen, Knight, Page. Your pages are your young people. They're generally like under the age of 20 or very emotionally immature adults. They are kids and young people. Your knights can represent, a page and knights can represent male or female. The knights are going to represent more like the grown young adult. Maybe they've graduated college, they're making their way in life, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, who they're going to be. They haven't yet settled down, had the experience of marriage, family, those kinds of things that mature a person. So that represents that stage in life. And then we have our kings and queens. Generally, our queens are going to represent women, and generally the kings are going to represent men, but not always. Okay, so those are 16 archetypes. So there is a page a knight, a queen, and a king of each of the 4 suits making up your 16 archetypes. Also, they are connected to the astrological signs. So you have a card that represents you in the tarot based on your birthday. What's your sign? Capricorn. Okay, so you're going to be Queen of Wands. She's the fire sign. All right, then there's even deeper layers when we start to add astrology and the elements as influenced in here. So if you are into astrology, there's a lot of tie over with tarot. You don't have to know astrology to learn tarot, but you can go endlessly deep with the layers in depth of this tool. I've been doing it professionally for 20 years and still learning. There's still things that surprise me. I want to mention something, the interpretation part. Remember I said if you're a Debbie Downer, doom and gloom, you're always going to have some kind of a warning or something bad is coming down the pipe. Honestly, tarot is not for you. Really, I'm going to, with love, gently direct and guide you over to an oracle deck. I recently almost tripped a book to Iceland. And I'm not going to go through the whole story of how it happened, but it was an impulsive thing. It sort of landed in my lap and my thumb was hovering over the buy now button. Aurora Borealis, hot springs, volcano. It was going to be lovely. And I need a vacation. So I was going to do it. And I decided before I do it, something was kind of like holding me back. And when that happens, there's usually a reason. So I pull out my tarot and I shuffle, and a card flies out of the deck, as it usually does for me. And it was this card. It was this card right here. It was 5 of Pentacles. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this set as to talk about today. So if you're a doom and gloom, worry, Debbie Downer, something bad is going to happen person, and you were doing my reading and you pulled that card for me, guess what? Guess what I'm hearing from your lips? Don't go to Iceland, something really bad is going to happen. The plane might crash into the ocean, you're going to slip on the ice and fall and break your leg, right? It's not going to be good, don't go. I don't interpret tarot like that. When I looked at that card, the first thing that popped out at me was the snow. And I heard, you better check the weather. So sure enough, I go on and I check the weather report. Guess what it's doing in Iceland right now? It's cold, it's rainy. Maybe not snow, but I was going to need to buy all kinds of rain gear. And all of my winter stuff is packed away in storage. So I just moved this past year. So I was also looking at the card, and those 5 of Pentacles were just staring me down, and I kept thinking, this trip is going to cost a lot more than I think it is. It was advertised at $400. I was like, I can $400 go to Iceland? Is airfare? I can do that. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think it's going to be more than I'm thinking it is. So I checked the weather report, cold rain. I'm not really like a cold rain kind of girl. So then I click on the thing a little bit further. The $400 room is gone. There's $1,200 rooms left. And these are like behind you, like the little cots and like an igloo. And so then I'm like, oh, I should check airfare, right? I have no idea where Iceland is, how long it takes to get there, how much it's going to be. A word of advice, don't wait to book your trip to Iceland to the week before. Airfare is very expensive. So it was all true. And I ended up opting to not go to Iceland, and I booked a trip to Hawaii instead. And I'm going in 3 weeks. So that's my little bit about interpreting the tarot. There's going to be both meanings, as you saw, but you also have to be willing and flexible enough to, yes, use that as a springboard, but also really like, what is that card telling you in that moment? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And as we saw, What one person sees in that picture might be different than somebody else sees in that picture, might be different than you see in that picture on a different day. So this leaves endless amounts of interpretation, information, things that can be garnered from the tarot. Choosing a deck. How do we know what deck to choose? If you are just starting with tarot, I am going to firmly but lovingly recommend that you start off with the Rider-Waite deck. This is the traditional tarot. This is the one that has all of those little bits of symbolism that are so important when you're learning the tarot. Once you learn the basic foundational symbolism, once you have the meaning of those 78 cards down, then you can start to move on to other interpretive decks. You're going to find, did I bring another tarot? Oh, I did. I brought two. So this one is actually the Arcanum Tarot. This is another one that I do like. It's a little more modernized. It's a little step away from the Rider-Waite, but it still holds a lot of the symbolism in there. And the Thelma Tarot is another one that I do like the pictures in there. But generally, when I read tarot at the sanctuary, when I read for clients, when I read for myself, I'm using Rider-Waite. And that's this here. I actually really adore the Radiant Rider-Waite. It's been colorized, so the colors pop out more, and that is helpful when you're looking at a spread. Sometimes certain things are just popping out of you, almost like 3D when you're looking at the cards. Okay, myths about tarot. I literally heard this in the store 2 days ago. Behind the desk, and some people came in. Might be somebody sitting here, I don't know. And I heard one lady say to the other lady, no, you can't buy your own tarot deck. Someone has to gift it to you. So that is a rumor. It's come from two places. Tarot readers not wanting you to read your own cards. And a Romanian tradition, I believe it was Romania, where it was, or somewhere close in that area, where literally the cards are supposed to be passed down to you because it was a legacy. It was passed down to you with the teachings of the tarot from your mentor. And that is where the tradition of somebody giving you a deck of tarot comes from. That's not really fitting for today. And so that is the number one myth that I wanted to dispel. You can and should buy your own tarot deck. Absolutely. Number two, you have to be psychic to read tarot cards. I can literally teach anyone to read tarot. Will the tarot cards make you more psychic? Probably. Because you're dealing with pictures and imagery and your intuition, it actually develops that. So tarot is a wonderful tool to start to develop your own psychic gifts and abilities. Myth number three, you can't read tarot cards for yourself. That is a myth. You can and should read tarot cards for yourself. However, I asterisk that with a disclaimer, which says can be much more difficult to read cards for yourself because you're not a neutral party. You are emotionally invested in whatever you're asking, most likely. The more neutral you are, the better of a reading you're going to get. Because if a certain card comes up, if that 10 of Pentacles comes up, I'm winning the lottery. Of course, that's what I want it to be. If you're asking about love, like that could be a tricky read for yourself. You're not impartial. That's where you should ask a friend or somebody or go to a professional to read those kinds of things for you that you're emotionally invested in. There are bad tarot cards. There are not bad tarot cards. There are a couple of cards in there that, again, people fear, but that's only if you are a fear-based person. The tarot, again, is mirrors and reflects the different challenges and adversities that we face in life and gives us tools and advice to overcome those challenges when they do show up. Tarot cards are evil. Again, that was something that began to be organized religion is one of the perpetrators of that. Really, again, it's just a mirror for your thoughts, your feelings. It gives us insights into our questions. modern day uses for the tarot. They can be used for meditation, like literally taking one card and sitting and meditating with it. You can manifest by focusing your attention with tarot cards. I have a fun little manifestation little box that I put some crystals and things in. And back a few months ago, I did a little scene and I had this Ace of Pentacles in there, which represents new opportunities, new streams of income, and money sources coming in. I have the Wheel of Fortune next to it, which is sort of like, that's a fun one. Spin the wheel, see what happens. This is big, like fate, destiny, twist of fate, unexpected, fortune turning your way. This is like the go play the lottery card. I have the Star with it, which brings in hope, inspiration, spiritual guidance, and your wishes and dreams coming true. And I think I have the 10 of Pentacles with there, because why not, right? So I put that all up with some crystals and things like that, and it was literally within 24 hours. Devin from the Brewster Peace Library was in the sanctuary asking me to come do a presentation here. So interesting things happen. You can use for manifestation. You can use the cards for clarity and guidance, finding lost items. We've been playing with that lately. By getting picture clues in the pictures as to where something might be. Discovering past lives. You can actually delve into past lives using tarot by getting some clues as to the characters and situations that are coming up. We can compare decisions. That's one of my favorite things to do with clients. Earlier today, I had someone who's invented something, and he's got sort of 3 routes. We were doing a business mentoring class, and Spirit was bringing in a lot of information and guiding some things and answering some questions that he had. And we pulled 3 cards on 3 different investment opportunities, and we were able to sort of compare them apples to oranges, and sort of see what the intentions behind people are, what kind of companies they are like, if there might be glitches in the deals, things like that. So lots of information if you ask the right question. It's all about the right questions, people. All right. Relationship advice, predicting the future and the most likely outcome. Actually, I do want to say something about that. The most likely outcome. That means when you ask a question and you pull a card, that is the most likely outcome based on current moment. And if everything keeps moving forward, you keep moving forward the way you are, that's the most likely outcome. Does that mean it's set in stone? No. Things are not fixed in stone. So there is always, especially when we have insight and awareness, we have the ability to sort of change or work with whatever energy might be coming our way. Be prepared for potential adversity and challenges, looking into people's character and intentions, mind mapping the various aspects of a situation or challenge. One of the things when we get into complicated spreads is that it really is almost like a faceted jewel. It's making you look at like a real breakdown, really dissecting the situation and asking about every sort of little detail and nuance. You're able to do that with the tarot. Developing your own intuitive mind, learning to trust yourself, gaining self-awareness. It can be used as a tool for healing and spiritual growth, and collecting. Many people end up collecting all sorts of decks, some that are out of print, some are rare, some are really fun and whimsical. So you can definitely get into collecting as well, which is a lot of fun. All right, if you are curious to learn more, there's a couple things you can do. You can make an appointment. You can come down and get a reading with me at the sanctuary. You can sign up for a class that I have coming up. It's 4 Sundays. It's going to be held on Zoom, so you don't even have to leave your house. And I will literally walk you through the basic foundations of learning tarot, teach you a spread, and you'll be able to start to practice and work with the cards and know what you're doing. All right, we're just about in time. Does anyone have a question? So you're wanting to know if the interpretations have changed over time. I think modern day society is a lot different than it used to be. So I think we have to sort of modernize and look at those interpretations to fit the day-to-day life that we have now. We're not necessarily partying in the castle with King Louis these days. So we have different things that are in our lifestyle and different things that are happening. So to some extent, yes, but I think those foundational energies are always going to hold true. But you can't be too married to them, because as you saw with that Five of Pentacles, that had a very different interpretation for me for that Iceland trip. So you've got to know the foundations. You can use this as a springboard, but you've also got to be open to kind of like what the card's telling you in the moment and what feels right. Because sometimes the book meaning doesn't feel right. I'm looking at it and I'm like, I know that it's not the book meaning. It doesn't make sense in this situation. It doesn't feel right in my gut. So my method is I sort of go in my mind through all of the possible interpretations. And then usually it's almost like there's a needle and it will sort of land on one of them in my mind, and that's the one. Also, that particular choice for interpretation will be the one that makes sense. It will be the one that fits, it will be the one that resonates and feels right. Okay, I think that is it for tonight. I invite you all to come down to the sanctuary, whether you just like to check out the gift store, maybe experience some of what we have going on in the spa, come to one of our classes. I also have a crystal bowl meditation happening on Saturday, May 31st at the sanctuary, 6:30. You can pre-register for that. I'm going to put that tarot class back up there. I just put up the link last night. It seems to be 7. It might be working. It might still need tweaking, but you can always call us if you have any issue with trying to set up online. I also left a sheet over here. If you'd like to leave us our email, if you'd like to get more information about the class, you can leave it up there.
What did you say you were doing May 31st?
Crystal bowl sound meditation with crystals. So we'll be working with crystals and sound. Anyone else? Yes?
What are your hours, your open hours?
So I'm just on the cusp of changing because we're going into Memorial Day. Right now, I am at the shop 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. I'm seeing clients before noontime and after 4, and then I have the shop open from 12 to 4. So like 9 to 12, I'm doing clients, 12 to 4, I've got the store open, you can stop in or do the spa, and then from 4 to like 6, I'm doing clients again. That is hopefully going to change as we're in the summer hours, and I can expand those hours a little bit. It's not like Sunday is 10:30 to 5. Yes.
Do you do readings? Do we sign up for those, and how much are they? Or
Yep, you can do readings, so it depends on the time. Most readings are an hour. A lot of people these days are actually doing it like an hour and a half. I like to go deep and meaty into whatever we're delving into. Oh, and just like if you come in to sit for a reading with me, I'm going to kind of ask you what you're hoping to get out of the reading. What are you here to talk about? Because there's lots we can talk about. We can go into past lives, we can go into the future, we can go into decisions, we can go into your spirit guides, we can go into something freaky that's been happening you need an explanation for. It just kind of depends what's on your heart and mind. If you need to connect with someone from the other side, I kind of want to know that. So then I'm going to steer the reading. I'm going to anchor in the light, and Spirit will start me off with something, but then I'm going to steer it based on what you told me I'm hoping to get out of the reading. Yes?
If somebody's completely indecisive, can you actually pick up and feel what they might need to discuss?
Every once in a while somebody comes in and they say, I don't know what I need. I don't know why I'm here. That's okay too. Spirit will help us figure it out. But if you know that you're coming in to talk to Great Aunt Susie, or you know you're coming in to really talk about something that's going on at work or your divine life purpose, let's go right into that. Specific questions get specific answers in the spirit realm. So we want to get in there and have the most productive session for you, getting all of the information and answers that you want. Yes?
I was just going to say, I was in there recently for a reading. It was excellent.
Thank you.
She nailed it.
What kind of reading did you go?
Mediumship, tarot, a little bit of everything?
No, we did mediumship, basically.
Oh, I
It was
remember.
all just,
I remember.
it was really good.
You sat down, and I think the first words that came out of my mouth that caused you tears.
Yeah, I cried through half of it.
We got something really deep.
Yeah.
Hit the
Yeah, I'm
heart.
getting chills now.
I aim for every reading to be life changing.
It was.
They're not always, but I usually get my mark. I usually come pretty close. Yes.
So when you're reading doing the tarot cards, do you find that your other psychic abilities come into play with your, you get all sorts of different sort of
Yeah, I remember in the
thoughts are
beginning, when I first started, you'd be staring at the card and, oh my gosh, what is it trying to tell me? And honestly, I couldn't actually imagine doing that was my worst fear, would be doing a reading with no cards. I'm gonna sit across from you with nothing and I just have to talk to you for an hour? Terrifying. But these days, that's what I do. A lot of what is happening in the reading is channeled. So hopefully, if I'm in the zone and it's all firing, all those clairs, I'm hearing it, seeing it, feeling it, knowing it, and I'm talking directly to spirit. Yes.
Could you provide a little guidance on interpreting, getting the message from the card versus studying what the actual card means, that balance?
I think a lot of that is practice, because every time you do a reading for yourself, you get a little store bank in the Rolodex of, oh, that's what that meant, that's what was happening in my life, that's what that was talking about. And it might not be exactly the book meaning. So once you have the book meaning down, you can really use it as a springboard. Like you said, that's my method, is I go through, okay, what are all the possible things this card could mean? And then as I go through all the possibilities, one of them that the needle kind of hits. So that's the one that makes sense. That's the one that resonates. And then you learn, and you go from there. And the next time that card comes up, you're like, oh, I remember the last time that card showed up. This thing was going on. And actually, even though this is another beautiful thing about the tarot, even though it has all of these foundational book meanings, tarot will start to communicate in a way that resonates with you. Like, your tarot deck will start to take on a little bit of your personality. Your tarot deck will start to convey things to you through the cards in fun ways that make you giggle, because it knows your sense of humor. So that's some of the kind of fun, quirky things about the deck. And over time, certain cards will have certain meanings to you personally, based on your experience, or certain things in the cards. So the tool does customize itself to you, interestingly.
The question's not about how early in your life did you know that you had psychic ability?
I always knew I was weird. I didn't know I was psychic. I thought it was just like everybody else, but I knew I was kind of a weird kid. I was always sort of on the outside looking in a little bit. And very observant. I was very quiet and very observant. Just sort of taking it all in. But I would say in my late teens is when I started to recognize that the clairaudience was kicking in. I hear that voice in my head, but I always thought it was my own narrator, my own ego voice. But after a little while, I started to realize when I paid attention and listened to that voice, amazing things would happen. And when I didn't, disaster would strike. And so I sort of started to pay attention to it. And then a teacher got in my path, thank goodness, and she said, oh, that's clairaudience. Your guides are talking to you. And I went, what? What are spirit guides? And it's all history from there, as they say. Yes.
As you're standing here now doing this talk, do you feel like you can look out over at all of us sitting here and like you can see anybody like with like an angel over them or a guide over them, or is there anything that you're picking up on right now with the audience?
So people sometimes, I get introduced to them or they meet me, and then they find out what I do, and then they go, are you seeing all my dead people behind me? My answer is, I'm trying really hard to block them all out. I am a huge empath, so I cannot walk around totally open and unprotected. I will get energetically jacked up, and then I will have an empath breakdown, and that is not pretty for for anybody. So no, I don't really operate in that sense. I suppose if it was something that I wanted to do and it worked out, I could, but I'm more the one-on-one. We're gonna say, I'm gonna call in the angels, the spirit guides, and I'm gonna actually open your Akashic records.
Do you offer any private sessions to help empaths heal?
I do. As a matter of fact, I actually teach 2 levels of empath class, empath 1 and empath 2. I have a ton of tools, but a lot of people do also come in just for private mentoring. We can sit down and use that hour to sit and go through like exactly what's happening to you, what you're experiencing, what type of empath you are, what your absorption rate is, and I can give you tools that you can incorporate for protection, for clearing, and understanding your empathic gifts.
And do you have a class coming up?
I don't, but check the schedule. There'll be some things coming up.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, I think we are just about out of time. I was able to answer everyone's questions.
Is it mostly women? Like, I'm just looking around, it's just.
I have more male clients than I do female right now. The sacred masculine is an awakening. They are coming in, they're shopping, they're getting energy work, they're coming to classes, they're mentoring readings. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Blessings and gratitude.